Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was letting everybody know I'm back up. Anyway, hi. Um, so my internet cut out and then it reconnected and then it disconnected and then it reconnected and it disconnected. Then it was out for like a moment or two and then it reconnected. So I'm back and I was getting ready to switch anyway. So it's fine. These can be favorite YouTube videos. I don't care. But I was going to watch one of like the last few things that we were gonna go over for the 2000s day. Sorry. Okay, so this is Been a Minute. They are a YouTuber. You might know them from like I grifted to the right to trick people into socialism or leftist policies on X, something to that effect. Very great YouTuber. Very much enjoy them. Please go check them out. I'm about to link them in chat.
What if I told you that the cause of our current political climate today can be traced back to one consequential event in history? From the global rise of the far right, to masked ICE agents kidnapping people off the streets, to the emergence of private big tech mass surveillance, and even to Congress's unwillingness to change American foreign policy no matter how unpopular it has become. All of this, and much, much more, can be directly attributed to one consequential event from 2001. The Mummy Returns, starring Brendan Fraser. Oh wait, I mean 9/11. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Ben, you're just cherry picking an event in history and then tying our modern day political policies and overall
As we've
trajectory.
seen, guys, from the last week, that we can trace a lot of our current problems back to what this administration
As a
did.
society back to an event that everybody knows about. And to that I say, yeah, I am. But for good reason. Because I can almost guarantee you, even though you might think you know how all of these things connect to 2001, like I thought I did, I was still surprised to learn a lot that I didn't know. So I hope this video can help provide some much needed context, because if you're like me, you've probably spent the past few years wondering, how the f did we get here? Hey, it's been a minute, and today I'm going to explain to you why I blame everything on 9/11.
I don't want to blame it all on 9/11, but it certainly didn't help.
Our current political state didn't appear out of nowhere. The roots of our foreign policy, this creeping authoritarianism, and this early form of American fascism were actually planted years before. I know it would be a lot easier.
This is such a good review for the quiz. I'm not even lying.
Simply blame all of this on people who voted for Trump, or hell, even Trump himself, but that's just not really the case. As you'll see, 9/11, and more specifically the response to it, really makes our current political situation almost seem inevitable. Trump or no Trump, the decisions made post 9/11 paved the way for where we are today. So without further ado, let's start where all great video essays about the early 2000s do, with the Cold War. To understand
Accurate.
why I blame everything on 2001, you have to understand the circumstances that led to those planes crashing into those towers. The Cold War really only makes sense to me when I dispense with the notion that this was a battle of conflicting ideologies: communism versus capitalism, authoritarianism versus democracy, and to see it for what it was actually really about. It was stripped of sentiment or morality or ideals. Instead, it was about gaining,
Wasn't even communism.
maintaining,
Yeah.
and asserting
Hey, Dorf.
geopolitical control. Reagan actually summed up the US approach pretty well. Here's my strategy on the Cold War. We win, they lose. Hell yeah, brother Reagan. And over the course of decades, the United States government proved it was willing to do almost anything to make this strategy a winning one. Whether that meant supporting authoritarian despots like Pinochet in Chile, or the Shah in Iran, or some guy named Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Yes, this is Bush's Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld shaking Saddam's hand. Or carpet bombing civilians in proxy wars. Or doing so many CIA coups. Seriously, guys, if I had a nickel for every time the US involved itself in a foreign regime change, I'd have literally over 350 nickels. For 40 years, the US flexed
Wait, how
its
much money is that? Hold on. I gotta get the calculator out. Good. Alright, so I won't think. Alright. 0.5 times 350. That's $17.50. That's a lot of nickels.
Military and economic might to ensure they would win the battle to become the next global hegemon. And in the process, they empowered a relationship that would become a defining feature of US foreign policy. The military-industrial complex. Coined by Eisenhower in his farewell address, the military-industrial complex describes the symbiotic relationship between the US military, the defense contractors who arm it, and the policymakers who fund it. Here's Eisenhower, rather presciently, warning of the potential for the military-industrial complex's destructive impacts.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted.
Russia was smart. They wouldn't have trolled the West by claiming to be communist when it was just corrupt fascism, but cold. Yeah, that's fair. I think also maybe just the West put forward a lot of that propaganda and be like, oh, look, these guys are communists, so this is what we think communism is. Like kind of how they're doing today.
Influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Like, I heard the other day that Trump... Oh my God, what was it? No, I'm losing it. Phishing's not open, it's breaking the computer. Oh, Trump has started calling, like, leftists, like, people who are, like, you know, want free healthcare, Medicare for all, and free childcare, and better public transportation. So he called like socialists. Now he's calling us. First, he was calling us leftists. He was calling us socialists, and that didn't really work. And then he was calling us a communist, and he's calling Zohran Mamdani a communist, and that's not really working because I don't know if you guys noticed, but more Gen Z are like leaning towards socialism than like anything else right now, and it's only going to go more towards communism the more people wake up to socialism. So like he's realizing that he's losing the grasp of like painting socialism with this broad brush. So now he's moved to calling us anarchists. And that's so funny to me because Emma Goldman, one of my all-time favorite public speakers / revolutionaries, who was an immigrant to America and brought like socialist policies forward. Everybody claims that she's an anarchist, and like part of me was like, after I read her work, I'm like, she's not that, like, there's not that much anarchy in her. So then, like, it just seems to me like they called her an anarchist to be like, oh, look, she's starting like problems. We don't want people to talk bad about World War One or the draft or you know, the Gilded Age and stuff like that. So like I feel like they're just rebranding socialism and communism as anarchist because they're not scoring any points. It's like when people were calling like Pokemon like evolution and saying that our kids were gonna get corrupted because of teaching evolution, or Dungeons and Dragons is the dark arts. You know, we kind of all see through that like facade.
The military-industrial complex became so powerful that by the time of the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, the United States was spending nearly $300 million on defense annually. This was around 10 to 20 times the budget of our European allies. Only now, there was a really big problem. We didn't have anybody to fight.
We are spending $270 billion a year on the military, but we don't have a major enemy.
So yeah, the US needed to find a new war for our big, beautiful military to involve itself in. Any guesses on which one it was? I'll give you a hint. It primarily took place in a Gulf, and it was a war. But before we break down this mystery war, I actually wanted to tell you about some people who are fighting a much cooler war. A war that I can actually get behind. A war against big banks and creditors. We all know the system isn't broken. It's rigged against us.
Ad
And if
break.
you happen to be buried in debt, That's exactly how they want it. Big banks profit when you are desperate. Creditors win when you lose. But you don't have to play their game. PDS Debt helps you take back control. They've helped hundreds of thousands break free from credit cards, loans, collections, or medical bills. PDS Debt goes beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalized plan designed just for you. There's no minimum credit score required. They're here to help you save more money, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs. Into your pocket. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, boasts thousands of 5-star reviews on Google, and holds a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. They're rated so highly because PDS Debt has helped hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. We've all either dealt with it or know someone who's dealing with it. The stress of trying to manage a crushing loan. I've been there before, and as an American who has to use American hospitals, I know I'm just one medical emergency away from being there again. Landed the free, baby. But if I ever found myself in that situation again, I would turn to PDS Debt for help. You're 30 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/benaminute. That's pdsdebt.com/benaminute. pdsdebt.com/benaminute. And thank you to PDS Debt for sponsoring this video. All right, back to it.
In the early stages of military operations.
So you have to remember, in 2001, the world was just a decade removed from the dissolution of the Soviet Union into component republics, marking the end of the nearly 50 years of tense geopolitical turmoil. The idealists among us might have once hoped that this would lead to a period of peace and prosperity, denuclearization and demilitarization, the whole international community uniting under a sense of shared humanity. But of course, that didn't happen. Because around the exact same time the Cold War was ending, a broke-ass Saddam Hussein, desperate for oil, accused Kuwait, that's so hard to say, accused Kuwait of slant drilling. He just made this up, by the way, they weren't. And promptly launched a full-scale invasion. Now look, a lot of the horrible things the US government and Interpol and your drunk Uncle Larry, who is maybe a little bit racist against Middle Easterners, said about Saddam Hussein were true. He was a brutal, repressive dictator who built a cult of personality around fear and propaganda. He seized power by personally overseeing the torture and killing of his political enemies. He deployed chemical weapons first as a war crime against Iranians and then against minorities like the Kurds in his own country. Although, to be fair, those weapons were sold to him by Western allies, and we didn't really seem to mind it at first back in the 80s. And also, quick side note, his son Uday Hussein genuinely might have been one of the worst human beings to ever live. For example, some of his hobbies included locking his friends in cages with his drunken and violent pet monkey, torturing Iraq's athletes for poor performance as he oversaw the Iraqi Olympic Committee, and sadistically murdering and raping hundreds of individuals throughout his father's decades-long reign in power. Even Uday's own daddy said, "Yeah, my son kind of scares me." Saddam was especially pissed at his son when Uday, quote, bludgeoned and stabbed one of Saddam's favorite attendants to death at a party. Saddam was so mad about this that he even grounded Uday by taking away his Xbox Live and didn't let him stay over at any friend's house for a whole month. Just kidding, he had him imprisoned and then beaten. Anyway, I can make a whole separate video on how evil Uday Hussein was, but for now, let's get back to what his daddy did that was very not cool and led the US into your Uncle Larry's favorite war. Because according to him, this one was pretty freaking badass. Okay, so the United States was not okay with the invasion of Kuwait.
Iraq's tanks stormed in blitzkrieg fashion through Kuwait in a few short hours.
Blitzkrieg fashion? You're making this guy kind of sound a little Hitlery. He must be pretty evil, but isn't this the same exact guy you supported while acting as vice president throughout the entire past decade? Well, not anymore. Now America and its allies were intent on bombing Iraq back into the Stone Age. And I actually mean that literally. By the end of Desert Storm, Iraq was operating at literally 4% of its pre-war electricity levels. Perhaps even more devastating were the economic sanctions exacted upon Iraq after Desert Storm. The blockades resulted in widespread famine within the country. The number of children who died from hunger and lack of clean water and power is heavily disputed, although we know it is an incredibly high number. What is indisputable is the icy indifference the U.S. government officials showed towards their
Didn't
deaths.
know that either.
Here's Clinton's Secretary of State,
I had no idea about any of that.
Madeleine Albright. "We have heard that 500,000 Iraqi children have died. I mean, that is more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?" I think that is a very hard choice, but the price, we think the price is worth it.
Isn't Madeleine Albright like a Zionist, or like doesn't she like fund something on behalf of Israel. I forget. Her name sounds really familiar. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Worth it. Honestly, that answer kind of reminds me a lot of this recent one from newly bearded Pete Buttigieg.
To recognize a Palestinian state?
I think that's a profound question that arouses a lot of the biggest problems that have happened with Israel's survival, Israel's right to survival.
Okay, so what changed? Why was the U.S. all buddy-buddy with Rumsfeld and Saddam shaking hands in the 80s only to completely pivot and treat him as Hitler's second coming in the 90s? The answer is that it no longer served our interests. See, we had been totally okay with Saddam when he was serving as a counterweight to Iran, who we saw as an overriding threat ever since the Shah was deposed during the Islamic Revolution in 1979. But now that he was invading...
Me and my sister had to walk to the store after dark. Ooh, spooky.
Kuwait, a major U.S. ally, well, all that changed. Also, for context, Kuwait sold us a lot of oil, and we're friends with Saudi Arabia, who also sold us a lot of oil. So this invasion was seen as another opportunity for the U.S. military-industrial complex to flex its muscles and show that it still mattered in a post-Cold War world. And I promise you, it's important to keep all of this in mind because it gives a lot of context to what's going to happen next. In 2001, right after...
In the middle of the building.
This one into the east top.
Yes.
Been a minute. Your music. Excellent. There was someone who was being rather rude. Ew. Oh.
Yes. Right in the middle of the building.
So my actual coverage of the date, September 11th, 2001, is going to be pretty brief. We all know what happened, and there's plenty of videos and documentaries covering that day. But what's important to know is that 9/11 was a horrific tragedy that resulted in the deaths of nearly 3,000 people. I know this might be a hot take, but 9/11 was bad. I just kind of wish that I was a little bit older than 5 years old when it happened so I could have a cooler backstory, but I remember it. I was 5 and I had to stay home from school. It was really traumatic for me. Anyway, for this video, I see 9/11 as sort of a flashpoint in a much broader story. And what I mean by this is that I'm really interested in the context of 9/11. What happened before, which we've already talked about a bit, but most of all, what came after? The far-reaching implications that stretch into the bizarre world we live in today. What I really want people to understand is just how damn important...
Please like this video. Please share it. Please go watch it all the way by yourself.
From the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq to the rise of the surveillance state to the way fear
that's fair.
reshaped public policy and civil liberties, the response to the towers falling defined 21st century America. So, yeah, never forget.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
It's hard to overstate the war fervor that enveloped the United States after 9/11. The war on terror had 83% approval. Do you know how hard it is to get 83% of Americans to agree on anything? W had a 90% approval rating. That's actually higher than George Washington at 89%.
Now watch this drive.
Now watch this drive.
So perhaps it was inevitable that the United States would invade Afghanistan after that.
Check out this kickflip.
That fateful September day. After all, the attacks had been orchestrated by the ominous, overarching, all-powerful global terrorist network Al-Qaeda, whose leader, Osama bin Laden, was based in Afghanistan. Only it's important to remember that even this narrative wasn't really true, because Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda kind of was never an actual thing. At least certainly not in the way that it was conceptualized by most people at the time. Here's what scholar and journalist Jason Burke had to say in his book Al-Qaeda, The True Story of Radical Islam. There was no...
Missed my mouth. I just dumped it down the side of my face. Check out this kickflip, nerds. Now watch this drive.
International network with a leader, with Carters who will unquestioningly obey orders, with tentacles that stretch out to sleeper cells in America, in Africa, and Europe. The idea of a coherent, structured terrorist network with an organized capability simply does not exist. So yeah, the guy who literally wrote the book on Al-Qaeda says it never really existed. Great. But hey, you know what? At least bin Laden was actually in Afghanistan. I mean, that's something.
That an estimated 30 Iraqis surrendered at the border.
Wait, then what the hell are we doing in Iraq? Surely it was because Saddam was also involved in crashing the planes and hiring the hijackers? Or maybe he had ties to Al-Qaeda too? At the very least, he definitely had weapons of mass destruction, right? There's no way it could have been that the presidential administration at the time consisted of a cabal of bloodthirsty warhawk career military industrialists. Well, let's run through the roster to find out, shall we? Introducing from the W administration, at Vice President claiming that Iraq has WMD with no credible intelligence and dismissing the idea of weapons inspections entirely, Dick Cheney. At Secretary of Defense, a military-obsessed warmonger who is justifying the lack of WMD's credible evidence with googly-goo quotes.
As we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know. And we also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there's some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Donald Rumsfeld. At Deputy Secretary of Defense, everyone's favorite neocon and ideological architect of the Iraq War, who blatantly and freely admitted that the fundamental U.S. interest in the security of the Persian Gulf is oil.
The Boondocks skewered the Bush administration on a weekly basis. People hated the Bush administration. It was wild. Like, we got American Idiot out of it. Like, it was wild.
Paul Fowler!
That's the guy that spit in his comb.
So yeah, the Bush administration insisted that Saddam Hussein had stockpiles of chemical, biological, and possibly nuclear weapons. And it just wasn't true. The Iraq Survey Group, a US-led team of inspectors, spent over a year searching and concluded in 2004 that Saddam had no active WMD programs and no stockpiles at the time of the invasion. Some old, degraded chemical munitions from the 1980s were found, but they were not usable and not part of any active program. I think it's important to remember that the National Institute of Health estimates that we killed 600,000 people conservatively in Iraq. Obviously, it's not a competition, but that's around 200 times the amount of people who died in 9/11. In a country that really didn't have any actual connection to the attacks. But the effects of 9/11 weren't just limited to foreign and military policy abroad. Just look at what 9/11 led to right here in the good old US of A.
It's now my privilege to sign the Homeland Security Act. The Department of Homeland Security will have nearly 170,000 employees. The threat of mass murder on our own soil will be met with a unified, effective response.
Following the attacks on 9/11, the Bush administration passed a sweeping piece of legislation called the Homeland Security Act of 2002, and its major goal was the establishment
Party of small government,
of the Department of Homeland Security. The primary mission of the DHS was to prevent terrorist attacks within the United States. The director of DHS has been a cabinet
Sound familiar?
level position in every presidential administration since its creation, making it the 15th in total and the first to be added since 1989. Members of the president's cabinet must be confirmed by the Senate and are part of the presidential line of succession, making the director of the DHS 18th in line for the presidency, and in turn making this a position of interest for sycophants and tryhards alike. Another goal of the Department of Homeland Security was to reshape and combine dozens of previously existing agencies under one roof, like Customs and Border Patrol, which is charged with the law enforcement, specifically along points of entry. The United States Coast Guard, tasked with our maritime safety and borders, Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, responsible for the response and recovery following widespread national emergencies, Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, whose main job is making sure that everybody gets their shoes off, belts off, laptops out of your bags now, during what is inevitably everyone in front of you's first day flying since 1990. And of course, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, who lately have been prying sobbing children from the arms of their soon-to-be deported parents at the direction of former freelance dog executioner and current head of DHS, Kristi Noem. So whether you are a Mexican woman entering Texas on a temporary work visa, a New Orleans receiving direction to an aid station after a hurricane, a ship captain from England entering port in Baltimore, or a Tampa Bay-bound divorced dad at the Oklahoma City airport being commanded to take your shoes off, you all have one thing in common with each other. You are face-to-face with an employee of the sprawling Department of Homeland Security. Today, Americans and the world most commonly link the agency ICE to the Department of Homeland Security. So how did DHS, created with the mission to stop terrorist attacks, become involved in the comprehensive deportation effort that Trump and Stephen Miller have made a central piece of their second term? The Trump administration has been able to effectively weaponize ICE for a few reasons. Unlike the FBI that operates as an apolitical organization and has done its best to rebuff Trump's pointed strong-arm tactics, ICE has been easily re-engineered from a law enforcement agency into a political agency. Recently, many of the employment requirements have been changed or scrapped in order to facilitate higher recruitment into ICE. A bachelor's degree used to be required to join ICE, but now it seems like the only thing needed is alignment with the Republicans' immigration stance. With the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, Congress has made ICE the highest funded law enforcement agency in the federal government by providing ICE with an extra $75 billion for immigration enforcement. When you consider that ICE is now better funded than Ukraine's, France's, and Japan's national militaries with an amount that would place it in the top 10 funded militaries in the world, you realize that Trump has not only weaponized, but funded a domestic police force with great success. Great success, very nice. I get one Borat quote per video, okay? That's the price you gotta pay for watching my content. Thank you. Please subscribe. Trump's goons have also successfully changed the definition of what we consider a criminal. Being in the country as an undocumented person is a civil offense, not a criminal offense. This is very important to know. But Trump has labeled every single undocumented non-citizen as a criminal. ICE, I guess, kind of used to work under a veneer of credibility and would typically only target undocumented immigrants with violent criminal records, which prompted Stephen Miller, the architect behind Trump's deportation policy, to ask ICE officials, "What do you mean you're going after criminals? Why aren't you at Home Depot? Why aren't you at the 7-Eleven?" DHS was supposed to protect us from terrorist operations within our borders, but today its mission is to inflict terror on Central and South American immigrants, no matter how devastating the effects may be on our economy, our conscience, and our friends and neighbors. If you are an American citizen watching this, you should be extremely fearful of DHS's reach and funding, and the ease with which it designates who it sees fit as criminals. ICE has become the secret police of the United States, hidden by masks, lurking in vans, patrolling Home Depots and 7-Elevens at the request of a white nationalist. But hey, that's what the Patriots voted for. Speaking of Patriots, the other piece of legislation that set the stage for the attacks on our civil liberties following 9/11 was the bill known as the USA Patriot Act.
Patriot Act, Patriot Act. I love it, I love it, I love it.
Which is actually an acronym that stands for Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. While it's nice to know that the Bush administration was at least having a little fun while planning to simultaneously invade the Middle East and turn the United States into a surveillance state, its everlasting impact on our society does leave me a bit miffed.
Now watch this drive.
Let's take a look at the I in Patriot Act. Intercept. Thanks to real American heroes like Mark Klein and Edward Snowden. Oh, right. I forgot they're listening. Thanks to traitors like Mark Klein and Edward Snowden, Americans now know that one of the large-scale
No, that's a
offenses
drive.
committed, thanks to the legislation, was a legal gathering of communications by American citizens on our phones, on our computers, and for God's sake, they probably hacked your Neopets account too. Mark Klein worked for AT&T in San Francisco in the 2000s when he discovered that the NSA, in collusion with AT&T, was intercepting, copying, and analyzing internet data from users including your emails, Google searches, and phone calls. The Bush administration would say that this was only monitoring suspects that made calls or other means of contact back to the Middle East.
Good morning. This is a highly classified program that is crucial to our national security.
Which is kind of just them admitting that they were fine with racial profiling without condoning mass surveillance of its own citizens. While the Bush administration was putting together the Patriot Act in the hours following the attacks and getting it signed just 45 days later, an 18-year-old Edward Snowden was being driven to serve in the Army and 12 years later continued to serve his country through his work at the NSA. Snowden would eventually release an absolute treasure trove of information on the NSA spying operations and even showing action just 3 days following September 11th. From September 14th on, the NSA granted itself the power to surveil any American on U.S. soil who was in digital contact with a foreign country where terrorism was known to exist. No warrant needed. So while the NSA and U.S. government would maintain it only tracked the communications of people they deemed suspicious, Snowden allowed us to see what the NSA was really able to collect. The NSA was collecting information from individuals to create what it called a pattern of life. And this is the way that you would be caught during the fishing expedition for data. They allowed themselves 3 hops, or 3 degrees of separation from their target. For example, let's say that they used the target's Facebook page to start creating his or her pattern of life. The first degree would include all of the target's friends on Facebook. Let's say they have 200. When the NSA moves to the next degree, friends of friends, they've now included over 30,000 people in that search. Now moving to that third degree of separation from their intended target, friends of friends of friends, they have involved over 5 million people in their illegal search. So when we look at the amount of data the NSA was able to collect, we have to remember that they were just one agency. The FBI and CIA and hosts of other alphabet soup government agencies all benefited from the Patriot Act and helped create a vast web of data and metadata on US citizens that we all know still exists today. And we were outraged by it. It was an affront to our privacy, our constitution, our sense of self. And somehow today we are still under attack from the same means of data collection, but this time from private companies with acronyms you find on the stock ticker, not in government budget reports. It's not just DOD, it's META. It's not just NSA, it's AMZN. It's not FBI, it's PLTR. And there is a huge difference between the government spying on us and voluntarily opting into social media terms and conditions. The government can use the information it gathers to arrest you, detain you, to deport you, to label you a terrorist. But for now, Google can't. But provisions of the Patriot Act have been rolled back. There's been public outcry and Congress people who have made it their goal to deconstruct this surveillance apparatus. But Mark Klein and Edward Snowden exposed us to the reality that private companies like AT&T and Verizon were working in collaboration with the US government to collect this data. Today, we see this relationship between billionaire tech CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Peter Thiel, and our sitting presidents.
Mark, would you like to say a few words about the company?
Well, thanks for hosting us. I mean, this is quite a group to get together.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to work here at the White House and to work for you.
Very grateful for your administration support.
We look forward to working together, and thanks for your leadership.
We're so grateful for that support.
Thank you so much, obviously, for bringing us all together and the policies that you have put in place.
These tech companies grow increasingly more powerful. Peter Thiel literally owns J.D. Vance. He's widowy his widow slave, and there seems to be little Congress can do to hold them accountable, even when they offer us a public accounting of what these companies are up to behind the scenes.
Was your data included in the data sold to the malicious third parties?
Yes.
It was.
Our data was valuable to the United States government. And at least this is what they told us in order to spot the next terrorist before they had time to concoct, coordinate, and collide into more towers. Now those very same indicators are used in social media algorithms to reinforce users' interests. Now that data may help fuel the next extremist, not flag them.
Standing in Iran's way is one proud pro-American democracy, my country, the State of Israel.
And finally, look, as bad as Iraq and Afghanistan were, they were really just the beginning. Because what happens when you destabilize a country, dismantle its military, and leave a power vacuum? That's right, ISIS. Born from the ashes of post-invasion Iraq, fueled by sectarian chaos and religious zeal, and armed to the teeth by leftover US weapons, oopsie, ISIS became everything that we claimed Al-Qaeda was in the first place. Al-Qaeda was sending out VHS tapes and sitting around in caves plotting vague assassination attempts against Western diplomats. ISIS, on the other hand, was f***ing organized. They had a well-disciplined and structured central command that enacted taxes and courts that administered Islamic law. Even worse, whereas Al-Qaeda was more secretive and strategic, sometimes forsaking violence to avoid detection, ISIS made violence their calling card. They built a powerful and violent military that wreaked havoc on their enemies within the region. Apostates, Kurds, LGBTQ people, basically anyone not Sunni extremist. The result was an Islamic State that at its peak controlled about a third of Syria and nearly half of Iraq. And while we waged a forever war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen and Libya and Somalia and Pakistan, Israel saw our war on terror pitch and thought,
I could do that.
The Israeli government and the IDF began to adopt the war on terror branding to reframe Palestinian resistance to settler colonialists as terrorism. Cue the expansion of settlements, the apartheid wall, and a PR campaign that does its best to disguise genocide as national security. And the whole time, neither major American political party has had a problem with any of this. The House of Representatives annually gave the IDF billions of dollars, by votes that were like 420 to 9. And the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about nearly 65 years ago just keeps on chugging. So yeah, if you're wondering why everything feels so broken, why we're still bombing countries most Americans couldn't even find on a map, why civil liberties have eroded while defense contractors and now big tech have boomed, why bipartisan consensus only seems to exist when it comes to war, well, blame 2001. And with all of the power the federal government was able to gain over its citizens in the response to those two towers falling, it almost makes you ask the question, did Bush do 9/11?
Bruvs, I can't wait to give you guys the test. I can't wait to give you guys the test.
MTV in the 2000s had such a large array of different, weird, wild,
Hold on, I feel like the volume's way too loud.
and ridiculous shows that my first video on MTV shows from this era could barely scratch the surface. And heck, maybe today's video doesn't do that either. But today, we are going to head back to this misunderstood Wild West era of MTV, where the most random, the most hardcore, the most whatever this is type of shows exist, and in some cases thrive.
Okay.
From
I don't, the sound is bothering me. I'm still gonna send you guys there, but I'm like, I can't sit there. Do I get a cheat sheet? No. No one, you had to be here. It's open book, technically. So on my YouTube page, I put all of like my lessons for class in a public playlist. So calculator, you won't need a calculator.
We got an issue in America.
The
Too many
quiz
good
will
dogs
be at
are
about.
getting out of business.
We'll do the quiz at 8 p.m. on Wednesday.
Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
And in his brief remarks,
well, I'll use anyway.
The president drew a roar from the crowd after putting his foot in his mouth.
You helped our nation celebrate its bicentennial in 1976.
The president's humor came to the rescue.
She gave me a look that only a mother could give a child. Thank you, Rowan. That's awesome.
What an
Is that
embarrassment.
Sam Donaldson? Forget it. You're a has-been. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these.
He was so unintentionally funny. He really is. Like, he's just a goofball. He's a goofball.
Terrorist killers.
Now watch this drive.
Thank you. Now watch this drive. Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we.
That's been a hotel reference.
They never stop thinking about new ways
I've
to
never
harm our
watched it.
country and our people, and neither do we. I think they misunderestimated the will and determination of the Commander-in-Chief, too. A year ago, my approval rating was in the 30s. My nominee for the Supreme Court had just withdrawn, and my vice president had shot someone.
I said to him the other day,
Jasmine Hotel is a pretty good show. I've heard it's good.
George, if you really want to end tyranny in the world,
If you're a single mother with 2 children, which is the toughest job in America as far as I'm concerned, and you're working hard to put food on your family, those who think that they
Food on your family.
can say we're only going to have a stimulus package, but let's forget tax relief, underestimate.
He got so red. Oh my god. There was one he said that like my family used, misremembered.
Just making sure you were paying attention. You were. I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully. The responses have got to end. in order for us to get the framework, the groundwork, not framework, the groundwork to discuss a framework for peace, to lay the... All right. We are not at war with Muslims. We don't have a beef with Muslims. We want to be friends with Muslims and Muslim children. We're fighting evil people. It's important for the boys and girls of Thurgood Marshall to know that we're fighting evil with good. And one way to fight evil with good is you can help by writing letters to boys and girls your age.
Good. I hope we can live side by side with aquatic life, not robots. Agreed.
And so, in my State of the Union, or my speech to the nation, whatever you want to call it, speech to the nation. I asked Americans to give 4,000 hours over the rest of your life of service to America. That's what I asked. I said, 4,000 hours. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
God. Oh my God. Are you alive? I can remember the Daily Show and Colbert was... That's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I gotta take it back. Oh, man.
Shame on... 4,000 hours. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again. Our enemies are...
Fool me, can't get fooled again. Oh my God. Holy shit, fool me once, shame on... Shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again. Oh my God. Woo!
They're innovative and resourceful. And so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people.
Are you okay?
And neither do we.
No. I haven't laughed that hard in so long. Ugh.
Parents are teaching their children right from wrong, and the message oftentimes gets undermined by the popular culture.
Paw Patrol.
You bet there's things the government can do. We can work with the entertainment industry to provide family hour. We can have filters on internets where public money is spent. I hear there's rumors on the internets that we're going to have a draft. We're not going to have a draft, period. We got an issue in America. Too many good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country. The good news is, and it's hard for some to see it now, that out of this chaos is going to come a fantastic Gulf Coast, like it was before. Out of the rubbles of Trent Lott's house, his had lost his entire house, there's going to be a fantastic house. Again, I want to thank you all for, and Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job.
God bless America.
Thank you for holding this awesome speech. And finally, the people in Louisiana must know that all across our country there's a lot of prayer. Prayer for those whose lives have been turned upside down.
His hand motions and just like the way he stands and talks. Yeah, he's like a circus like clown cowboy. Like that's the best. Like I mean that in the best possible way. I'm not trying to offend any rodeo cowboys, but like he seems like old-timey circus clown who is also a cowboy. Like it's straight up Three Stooges, man.
And I'm one of them.
That's Jack.
And one of the things I've used on the Google is to pull up maps. These are big achievements for this country, and the people of Bulgaria ought to be proud of the achievements that they have achieved. Another problem is proliferation. There are areas we can work together, and he brought an interesting proposal. He said, I have an idea. Why don't we jointly use a radar in Azerbaijan to help deal with a potential threat? Governor, thank you very much. I am here to make an announcement that this Thursday, ticket counters and airplanes will fly out of Ronald Reagan Airport. But here's a dreamer. Man had an idea. He didn't like the way the cotton shirts that he wore absorbed, his bodily fluids when he exercised, so he came up with a better product. Last night, Jeb and I had some crabs with like members of the 1972 Miami Dolphins, Dan Marino and his really dynamic wife, TV stars, Andy Garcia. It's just a fact. I met an onion grower today at the airport when I arrived, and he said, you got to help me find people that'll pull onions, or pluck them, or whatever you do with them, you know. Just seems like I was here yesterday. I was. Kind of. I think tide turning, as I remember, I was raised in the desert, but tides kind of turn. It's easy to see a tide turn. Did I say those words? I couldn't imagine somebody like Osama bin Laden understanding the joy of Hanukkah. People say, well, how can I help on this war against terror? How can I fight evil? You can do so by mentoring a child, by going into a shut-in's house and say, I love you. This society of ours is going to change one heart, one soul, one conscience at a time, because thousands of our fellow citizens are loving a neighbor just like they'd like to be loved themselves. Most of the new jobs in America are created by the small business sector, and our entrepreneurs are doing well. We got the best workforce in America, in the world. It was not always a given that the United States and America would have a close relationship. After all, 60 years we were at war. Now, there may be some tough times here in America, but this country's gone through tough times before, and we're going to do it again. This is an extraordinary year. When you think about it, in the first month of a new year, there will be an election in the Palestinian territory, and there will be an election in Iraq. Who could have possibly envisioned an election in Iraq at this point in history? Appreciation for different aspects of our
Is this when he gets
relationship.
the shoot around?
Thank you all very much. I was trying to escape. It didn't work. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Oh no. Oh my God. I can't believe that man was a leader in this country. What a time to live through.
Some major breaking news in the New York City mayoral race. Incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, who was running for re-election as an independent, has dropped out of the race. Adams will now be the first one-term New York City mayor since David Dinkins lost re-election back in 1993. The scandal-plagued mayor had been struggling in the polls with a recent Fox News poll showing him dead last at 8%.
I don't think he can get off the ballot now, though.
Behind his rivals Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and even Curtis Sliwa. Here's what Adams said earlier in a video announcing the end of his campaign.
Despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the Campaign Finance Board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope you will see that despite the headlines and innuendo, I always put you before me, always.
And joining us exclusively for his first live sit-down interview since the shakeup in the race, Zohran Mamdani.
We got a socialist on MSNBC, y'all. We're doing the damn thing.
The Democratic nominee in the New York City mayoral race. Great to have you back here on the set. We got to say that we weren't expecting to have you here, so we really appreciate you making time because of the news. I'll start broadly by getting your reaction to the fact that Eric Adams, who is polling fourth, has dropped out, and what this means for the race going forward.
Look, Donald Trump and his billionaire donors may be able to determine the actions of Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, but they will not dictate the results of this election. This continues to be the same election as it was when we started on October 23rd, a choice that New Yorkers have between Eric Adams' record, which is Andrew Cuomo's agenda, one that has priced New Yorkers out of what is now the most expensive city in the United States of America, or our vision for a city that New Yorkers can actually afford. And I'm excited and just as confident as I was yesterday at actually delivering that vision and winning this race on November 4th.
Do you have a sense of what's behind this decision today?
Oh, hey, New Jersey voters. I don't know too much about the Dem running in the race. But listen, I want you to educate yourself before you vote, but I also want to say please don't vote for Jack. Okay. All right. Just this one time. All right.
We've all heard that Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, claims that he's been offered large sums of money from powerful people to get out of the way. Do you think that's what's happened here?
No, I think we have to put this in a larger context where after we beat Andrew Cuomo by 13 points in the Democratic primary, he called Donald Trump to ask what they could do together to defeat our campaign in the general election. And Donald Trump has spoken time and again about how he wants to narrow this race, how he wants to use every tool at his disposal to try and stop this campaign for affordability. And we're seeing amidst all of that here.
He's pumping out the affordability lines on national TV that like liberals love. Liberals love this. They're going to see this. We're going to get so many wine moms. I love seeing this grow.
Here, yet again, the moment where he is shaping this race, but we're going to show him that New Yorkers are tired of his politics and they're tired of being priced out of the city.
Eric Adams had a warning for New Yorkers in his parting message, and I want to play that and have you respond on the other side.
I must also sound a warning. Extremism is growing in our politics. Our children are being radicalized to hate our city and our country. Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos.
What do you make of that message? Do you feel that that's directed towards you and is not so veiled swipe at your Muslim heritage, but also your position, some of your policy positions? What's your response to that?
Well, I think that the only thing I truly find to be extreme is Eric Adams' record. This is a man who's raised the rent on more than 2 million New Yorkers by 12%, a man who slowed down already the slowest buses in the country, one who priced New Yorkers out of childcare that cost them about $25,000 a year. That's what's extreme. That's what's radical. And our vision to deliver affordability, it's common sense, and we're seeing that it's popular across the 5 boroughs.
A chicken in every pot is still a good policy to run.
And what I actually think of more in Eric Adams' parting words are the ones that he gave us a few weeks ago, where he assembled a number of cameras and spoke to them directly, that Andrew Cuomo is a liar and a snake. And I think that New Yorkers are tired of that kind of politics. They're tired of considering the architect of this affordability crisis and Andrew Cuomo as being the next mayor of the city. They want a new direction.
You talked about how the billionaires in this city were very clear about they wanted to consolidate this race, to have it between you and Andrew Cuomo. Does that crystallization, you think, breathe life into the campaign of Andrew Cuomo? He welcomed Eric Adams dropping out, and there's a lot of questions as to whether or not he will now get an cash injection of money from donors, the Bill Ackmans of the world, who wanted to see Eric Adams out, and then a consolidation of resources behind Cuomo. Do you think that will do anything whatsoever in this race for Cuomo?
You know, it reminds me of what Andrew Cuomo wanted in the primary. He wanted me to be his main opponent, and he got that, and we beat him by 13 points. And that was in spite of around $30 million being spent against us to smear and slander our campaign. And I have no doubt that he will see an influx of donations from Donald Trump donors, the very ones who have been trying to coax these other candidates out of the race. But I continue to be confident that New Yorkers can see through that, and they understand that this is a democracy. It's not something to be bought by an oligarchy. And no matter the attempts of people who are willing to spend more money than I would ever tax them, we are going to show that this is a city that deserves to be one that New Yorkers can afford.
But with the race being a little bit wider now, does that change at all the calculation? Because now it's not just the primary, it's not just Democratic.
I don't think he can be removed from the ballot at this point, so I don't think it matters much. Some people aren't going to know that this happened.
For members who can vote in the primary, it's going to be wider in the city.
Well, you know, the affordability crisis impacts New Yorkers regardless of their politics. Right. I've met Republicans, I've met unaffiliated voters.
He just keeps swinging it right back to affordability. He takes whatever, question they're trying to throw at him to, make him go off on a certain way or to get that soundbite, and he's just like, affordability, affordability, affordability. Yes, drill it home.
I've met voters who are registering to vote now for the first time, and they tell me the same issues that Democrats spoke to me about. Their rent, their childcare, public transit, the fact they just can't afford the city. And I know that this is an agenda that will speak to the despair, the disappointment that many New Yorkers have had with politics and politicians. And I understand that, because if Andrew Cuomo was the only example you had of a politician, why would you believe in them either? Our job is to show that there's an alternative.
And I know things. The _prodigy_B would like you to drink something.
If I gotta run that back, holy shit.
You had of a politician, why would you believe in them either? That, because if Andrew Cuomo was the only example you had,
Christ, there's a boomer around here.
If Andrew Cuomo is the only example that you have of a politician, okay, oh my God,
would you believe in them either? Our job is to show that there's an alternative.
What do you make of the state of play in the Democratic Party in New York right now? Since the last time we saw you, Hochul has endorsed you. The two of you have appeared together and are clearly finding common ground. But Schumer, Jeffries, still on the sidelines. Jeffries today put out a statement thanking
Cory Booker too. Go fuck yourselves.
Adams for his service. I mean, this is a person who actually has technically left the Democratic Party now and ran as an independent in this race. So what do you make of that? And at this point, I guess, do you even want the endorsement of Jeffries or Schumer?
Look, I will welcome endorsements from anyone across the city, and I will welcome them because we're looking to build a coalition that reflects the 8.5 million people who call the city home. And I'm proud, as you said, not only to have the endorsement of Governor Hochul, but also of Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins in the state Senate, as well as Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, because these are the New Yorkers I will be working with to deliver this agenda, to show that the relationship between City Hall and Albany doesn't have to be as tense as it was under Andrew Cuomo. It can be be one of partnership and one of productivity.
But do you think those leaders are holding out in service of the people that they serve, the communities, neighborhoods that they walk through and work with every day, or in service of something else?
You know, I can't speak to the motivations. I can just tell you that I'm proud to be building a campaign that we're seeing increased excitement across.
He's so good. So good. Look, do you guys see how well he's able to, like, look, I don't care about that thing. I want to talk about affordability. I want to talk about the community and coalition we're building. I want to talk about the good that we're going to do for work. I want to talk about how much I love New York. Like, he just immediately spins it. He's so good.
These 5 boroughs, and a campaign which, you know, won the most number of votes in New York City primary history. We saw that the top 3 age demographics that came out were all under the age of 35. We registered 30,000 people in the last 10 days. That's the excitement we're seeing, which is necessary because we can't protect democracy if people lose faith in its ability to actually deliver on the material needs of working people.
So now this is a new phase of the...
Yes! 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 Deliver the needs to the working people. Yes! Oh my God, you're hitting the Marxist talking points on MSNBC. I'm gonna come. Holy shit. That's so hot. Holy crap.
The campaign.
We're seeing, which is necessary because we can't protect democracy if people lose faith in its ability to actually deliver on the material needs of working people.
So now this is...
Deliver the material needs to working people. Oh my God. I don't know if you guys have ever read the Communist Handbook. It's only like a 2-hour long book on audiobook, so it's a quick one if you have a long drive. He just like Gen Z'd up. Like, or he kind of, I would say Gen X'd up, like, the Communist Manifesto right there. Like, that was beautiful.
It's a new phase.
I feel like I've used that quote in a longer, more, like, a longer form as, like, a caption under a profile picture, you know?
Of the campaign, though. You're in a head-to-head now with Andrew Cuomo, with whom, you know, there's no love loss among...
It's not a head-to-head. Mamdani is at, like, 59%. Hold on. Do we have like current Mamdani polls days ago? New York Times. Come on, fuck off. I just okay, so like here we go. Mamdani plus 18, Mamdani plus 20. Like, he's smoking Cuomo. Like, Cuomo, like, they are assuming Eric Adams voters are gonna go to Cuomo or, like, Curtis, or mostly Cuomo. But, like, why would they? They obviously would rather vote for Eric Adams than Cuomo, so why would they vote for him? You know, it doesn't always work that way. And it's not like Eric Adams endorsed anybody. 45 plus 15 plus 21 plus 22 plus 15 plus 21 plus 14, 39% to 25%, plus 19 plus 12 plus 16. Like, there is not a single poll where he is not doing so good. And like, even in these, he's like 36 to 34, like 38 to 30. Like, this is absolutely insane. I don't know how you can sit there and say, like,
you're in a head-to-head now with Andrew Cuomo.
A head-to-head.
With whom, you know, there's no love loss among many New Yorkers that I talk to.
Don't forget Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah. Well, who I respect because he takes care of animals well. But that said, so back to the race, though. There are plenty of friends of mine who they recognize your political talent, they admire you, but they worry that they're more moderate. They're worried you're going to make taxes higher, that the city is going to become more expensive, that it's going to be harder to do business here. They worry that you're inexperienced. What are you going to do what do you have to say to those moderate voters?
Well, the first thing is that I'm looking to represent them as well. I'm not looking to just be a mayor of the nearly 600,000 New Yorkers who voted for me. I'm looking to lead a city of 8.5 million people. And so much of this general election has been reaching out to those who have questions or concerns and making clear that our affordability agenda is a universal one. It's one that understands that tenants are facing rent hikes that are pushing them out of the city, and homeowners are facing a water bill the highest it's been in 13 years, a broken property tax system, the necessity of having an application of these ideals for every New Yorker. And I know that for so many New Yorkers, small business is where they find their employment. And I've spoken to many small business owners who've told me that one of the most difficult things about operating a business in the city is how Byzantine the city's bureaucracy is to navigate. And that's why we've committed to cutting fines and fees by 50% and to looking at all the regulations we have as someone who believes in regulation to ensure that these still have a resonance and an actual reason to exist today. Because some of them, when you ask a barbershop owner how many forms he had to fill out, he tells you 24 forms, 7 agencies, 12 in-person events. How is that stimulating the kind of growth we need in this city?
Is there a policy concession that you would be willing to make in order to woo more moderate voters? Or since you're the front runner, you're ahead by double digits, do you not really have to make policy concessions?
The policies that I'm running on are the ones still from the primary, but I'm also willing to speak to everyone and anyone, because sometimes the concerns are based more on a caricature of me as opposed to who I actually am. You know, there are people who have come up to me and said, how will we be able to pay for free rent? I said, no, you drop the ZE. It's freeze the rent of 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. And similarly, people who ask me questions about, is it possible to make buses fast and free? I say, the cost would be about $600–700 million, which is less than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk 1 year in tax breaks of $959.
Oh my God, that face. Oh my God, her face. Oh.
$600–700 million, which is less than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk 1 year in tax breaks of $959 million. Showing people the context that we're in and building a coalition where they may not see themselves in me, perhaps, but they may see themselves in the best and the brightest that I'll hire to surround me in City Hall.
The other side of that coin, I guess, is do you worry at all as you meet with some of these leaders, moderates, business leaders who've wanted to get your time and attention here in the city over the last several months, do you worry at all about losing connection and credibility with the young people who fueled your initial win? I met many of them who said they literally only voted because you were on the ticket, that they were glad you didn't have a relationship with all these people that they despised. But now, you know, as you said, you're willing to be the mayor for the people that they despise. So how are you going to strike that balance?
How do you thread that needle?
Yeah, well, I think what I've told young people and supporters of our campaign across the board is the most important thing is delivering the agenda that excited so many. Because more than people knowing my name, I have people stopping me in the street shouting, freeze the rent, shouting fast and free buses, shouting universal child care. And it's going to take everyone to deliver that. And I think the most important part of it is honesty.
He got the talking points of his campaign out, all 3 of them out right there. He probably doesn't have people being like, free childcare, like out bus windows. Like, I mean, I don't 100% know that, but like, that was such a good way to sneak in his policies. I love that.
When I go into a room with the leaders of the most profitable companies in New York City, we all know that I'm leaving the room in the same way, still thinking that it's right to increase personal income taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. Still thinking,
oh, so hot.
We should have the state's top corporate tax rate be that of New Jersey. There's going to be that disagreement, but there's also room to find other places of agreement. And I think that's what New Yorkers want. They want a politics that delivers as opposed to one that just looks to speak to those who have every opinion they already do.
Andrew Cuomo had some nice things to say about Eric Adams' tenure. I'm going to give you a chance as a person who's stepping aside from politics. Do you think he did anything well in the 4 years that he served as mayor? I mean, he's still on for a couple more months, but do you think he did anything well as mayor of the city?
I think he spoke the truth when he called Andrew Cuomo a liar and a snake. I also think that his steps towards the containerization of trash are ones that are welcome in this city. And I think that City of Yes was something that was good and something should be built on.
All right. I think also you may be the first person on the show to use the word Byzantine. So we'll give you
Right.
That's pretty, okay. We'll give you that.
Zoran Mamdani, thank you very much.
Damn, he cooked them. He absolutely cooked. That was so good. I really don't think
we have some more
is going to affect the polls as much as the news media is trying to make it seem. Like, I'm telling you right now.
Breaking news at this hour, New York City Mayor Eric Adams officially ending his re-election bid, posting a video to social media just a short time ago in which he did not endorse any of the remaining candidates.
And yet, despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the Campaign Finance Board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign.
One of his opponents, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, released a statement saying in part, quote, "The choice Mayor Adams made today was not an easy one, but I believe he is sincere in putting the well-being of New York City ahead of personal ambition." Joining me now, Reverend Al Sharpton, host of Politics Nation here on MSNBC and president of the National Action Network and a good friend to us. So, Rev, give me your initial reaction to this, because you sat down with Mayor Adams just last night. I saw.
Oh, my God. Somebody sent her his frame, please.
I'm coming into the building as I was leaving work. Did you see this coming?
I pressed him on the show last night on whether there was any circumstance that he would leave, and he would not say that there was no circumstance. He would not commit, he would not leave. So I had a feeling then, having known him for 35 years, he was leaving the door open. And then I got a text message from him this morning saying he wanted me to know before he released it to the press that he was not going to continue his reelection bid. So I knew hours before it became public. And I think I've known Eric Adams for 35 years. He's a very proud and a very determined person. And I think that it took a lot for him to decide to pull out. He said on the show last night he could not raise money. He said that he felt the media had been unfair and his options were narrow. He did not say then he was pulling out, but less than 15 hours later he did.
What did you think of Andrew Cuomo's statement, the one that I read?
Well, I think
I hate these talking heads. I hate like people like being like, "Oh, how'd you feel about that?" It's like, okay, can we just get like the facts of this? Show me the poll numbers.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
New York Mayor Eric Adams has announced he's dropping out of the race just over a month before Election Day. In recent weeks, President Trump and New York business leaders pressured Adams to drop out of the race in an effort to help boost the campaign of disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent. Polls show Cuomo is well
I wish I had New Yorkers in the chat so I could get their opinion on this.
behind New York Assembly member Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic socialist who shocked the political establishment in June when he defeated Cuomo in the Democratic mayoral primary. There have been reports Adams might drop out ever since he met with one of President Trump's closest advisors, Steve Witkoff, in Florida earlier this month.
The New York Times reports President Trump has considered offering Mayor Adams and Republican mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa positions in his administration to clear the field to help Cuomo, including in Adams' case, possibly making him ambassador to Saudi Arabia. Sliwa said recently he was even offered money to drop out. Well, today we're joined by the man.
Is that, not that it fucking matters in this timeline anymore, but is that normal? Is that legal? Sorry.
President Trump does not want to become mayor of New York. That's right, Zohran Mamdani. He's in our studio to talk about this breaking news and more. Zohran Mamdani, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Respond. The significance of Adams dropping out of the race. Does this surprise you?
You know, it is something that has been rumored for quite some time, that this would be the month, this would be the week, this would be the day, and today we've finally seen it. Yet it is also an encapsulation of so much of what has characterized Eric Adams' mayoralty, is decisions at the behest of Donald Trump and his billionaire donors and at the expense of working-class New Yorkers. And what we see in this moment is very much what we saw the day we started this campaign on October 23rd. A necessity to finally stand up to the days of big money and small ideas being what characterizes City Hall, and instead delivering for the very working class New Yorkers that are being priced out of that same city.
Well, let's go to what Eric Adams had to say in a 9-minute video message announcing his decision to drop out. New York Mayor Eric Adams did not mention you, Zohran, or Andrew Cuomo by name, but he said this, which has been viewed as criticism of your campaign.
Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos. Instead, I urge New Yorkers to choose leaders not by what they promise, but by what they have delivered.
So, Zohran, your response?
Well, I am not surprised to hear any of these critiques or points from Eric Adams, because it is Eric Adams' mayoralty that has delivered us with a city where 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. And in that same video, he diagnoses what the issues are that New Yorkers face. He speaks about the necessity of lowering costs, of improving quality of life, of keeping New Yorkers safe. And I don't contest the diagnosis. I contest his delivery, however. This is a mayor who raised the rent by 12% on more than 2 million New Yorkers, a mayor who priced New Yorkers further out of childcare, a mayor who has time and time again exacerbated a cost of living crisis, whether by raising the water bill or supporting Con Edison when they wanted to raise gas and electric. And so I wouldn't take advice on addressing that same crisis from the man who's been inflaming it time and time again.
Well, could you say, Zohran, what do you think the impact of his dropping out will have on your electoral prospects?
I think it's very much the same race. We have seen
Spider-Man is so cool. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
over the course of this race, especially in the final weeks and months of the primary, that Andrew Cuomo wanted nothing more than a one-on-one fight with me. And we gave him exactly that, and then we beat him by 13 points. And we continue to be just as confident. And yet what separates us from these other candidates is that we're not focused on them.
And not for nothing, but a lot of people ranked Brad Lander first and Mamdani second. So, like, the people who would have voted I feel like the people who would have voted for Brad Lander because of that cross endorsement also will vote for Mamdani.
We're focused on New Yorkers. New Yorkers deserve leadership that is thinking about how to benefit the people of the city. And too often politicians, be it Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams, the meetings that they have or the phone calls with someone like Donald Trump, they're only speaking about themselves. It's time to actually think about New Yorkers.
So in the New York City mayoral race, the Republican nominee who's still in the race, Curtis Sliwa, says at least 7 wealthy individuals have offered him money to end his campaign. He says he's going to stay in the race. If you can talk about that, who you think these 7 wealthy individuals are, and are they the same people who are funding ads to the tune of millions of dollars against you?
Well, I can tell you there's no shortage of Trump donors who are seeking to influence this election, who are looking to spend more money than I would even tax them to try and stop our campaign. And at the same time, of Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa is the one that I would trust the most. And I do think it is very real that there are many who are threatened by our campaign and our politics of putting working people at the heart of this city's focus and are trying to do everything in their power. And we've seen that with Donald Trump being on the phone with Andrew Cuomo, trying to do everything in his power to ensure that they stop this movement. And the sad news for them is that they won't be able to.
Is this going to change your strategy in any way, where it's gone from a 4-person race to a 3-person race? But of course, people are saying that with Eric Adams out of the race, it's much closer to a 2-person race, you and your leading opponent, Andrew Cuomo.
We will have the same focus as we've always had on working class New Yorkers, their struggle to afford this city, and also to be very clear with New Yorkers that the reason that Donald Trump is seeking to clear the lane for Andrew Cuomo is because he knows that Andrew Cuomo will clear their lane for Donald Trump's agenda. There is a reality to the fact that it takes 2 to tango, and these are the 2 people that are so often on New Yorkers' minds as an example of the politics we have to leave in the past.
Well, indeed, Zohran, your entire platform has focused principally on affordability and, as you said, helping the working class. But what appeared surprising to some in the Democratic primary is that Cuomo had a double-digit lead over you in low-income neighborhoods. So how do you explain that, and what are you doing to assuage whatever the concerns of this constituency are?
You know, when I started this race, and I was here on the first day of the campaign, I was also here on primary day, and I'm very happy to be back. I spoke about the fact that I was a state assembly member who at that time was polling, let's say 1%, and that's being charitable to me. That's rounding up. And I think for much of the campaign, it was introducing myself and our movement to New Yorkers. And we introduced ourselves to quite a few, which by the end of that primary meant that we won close to 600,000 votes. And yet that work still continues, because when I'm running against Andrew Cuomo, it's not just his name or his record that comes to mind for New Yorkers, it's also that of his father. And so for many New Yorkers, that was the association that they began the race with. And now we are building a coalition that shows our agenda is one that will deliver that affordability to each and every New Yorker.
There's only one more thing I want to do, and then I'm going to get out of here for the night. I want to go to Zohran's channel, Zohran Mamdani, because he put out a new video recently, and I wanted to watch it, because I haven't watched it yet. Oh. Today? This is from 2 hours ago?
Today, Eric Adams announced he won't be running for re-election. 4 years ago, he ran on a promise to working-class New
This wasn't the one I was talking about.
Yorkers, to deliver both safety and justice, to bring the voices of the outer boroughs into City Hall. Instead, he raised their rents, slowed their buses, and cut funding for their schools, libraries, and childcare. A city that was already hard has become nearly impossible for those who call it home. But a new day is coming. Over the past year, tens of thousands of you have built the biggest grassroots campaign our city has ever seen. You have knocked on millions of doors, all to make the city affordable. In just over 5 weeks, we will turn the page on the politics of big money and small ideas and deliver a government every New Yorker can be proud of. And to Andrew Cuomo, you got your wish. You wanted Trump and your billionaire friends to help you clear the field. But don't forget, you wanted me as your opponent in the primary too. And we beat you by 13 points. Looking forward to doing it again on November 4th. Hope you're well.
Oh, cool. Just saw a Stan Lee cameo in the Spider-Man game I'm playing. I've heard that people are like, please just let this man rest. Leave Stan Lee alone. This was the one.
At 2 p.m. on October 26, 1916, the Vice Squad raided this unassuming building behind me. It took only a few minutes for officers to emerge, their arms full of confiscated contraceptives. Trailing them were 3 women in handcuffs, protesting loudly. One of them was Fania Mindell. The Brownsville Clinic had been open for all of 10 days before it was shut down. But those 10 days were historic. This was the first birth control clinic in America. Its very existence was revolutionary. The women arrested were the clinic's founders. 2 of them were well known, Ethel Byrne and her sister Margaret Sanger, who later founded Planned Parenthood before embracing eugenics. But few know about their partner Fania, a 22-year-old woman freshly arrived from Minsk, not yet an American citizen. Mindell was fluent in the Yiddish that many women spoke on these streets, and she translated pamphlets into words they could understand. When over 100 women visited the clinic on its opening day, it was because Mindell had shown them the way. In 1916, Brownsville was one of the poorest neighborhoods in New York. Birth control and abortion were illegal, and unwanted pregnancies were common among the young immigrants who lived here. Those who walked through the clinic's doors were taking a huge risk, but they had nowhere else to turn. 109 years later, Brownsville has changed. Instead of Jewish and Italian immigrants, this community is predominantly black today, yet much remains the same. Brownsville is the poorest neighborhood in Brooklyn, and still, too many mothers have nowhere to turn. No neighborhood has a higher rate of pregnancy-associated deaths than Brownsville, 146.9 of every 100,000 live births. That pain isn't limited to East Brooklyn. Black women in New York are 9 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related causes than white women. None of this is accidental. While Fania Mindell extended care to all New Yorkers, others, like Sanger, believed that only some people were fit to have children. The racism that clouded the birth control movement permeated deep into maternal
I can't believe this is a campaign ad. This is so awesome.
health. To this day, we reckon with the lasting toll it inflicted. We have the power to stop this suffering. My administration will provide new mothers with baby baskets proven to improve health outcomes, and expand home visit programs to coordinate postpartum care, and will make midwives and doula care more accessible. After Fania Mindell was driven to jail, I imagine a heavy silence hung low here at 46 Amboy Street. It was the silence of a question unanswered. Who now would look out for those struggling the most? We can answer that question in our time, together.
Oh my god, he's so good. All right. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to go over. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here for the night.
Bernie. Senator.
No, I can't watch it. I'll cry. I'm going to get out of here for the night. Now, we have a wonky schedule this week, so just bear with me, okay? Okay, so I am streaming tonight, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night. Thursday night and Friday night, I will be off. Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, I will be off because I'm getting surgery done. Everything's fine. It's just a small little thing. But I want to take the time I need to recuperate and also make sure I do everything before the surgery properly. So I'll be taking Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off, and I will keep you posted in the Discord about if I'll be streaming that next Sunday. This Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we are doing our quiz for the 2000s, okay? This is a quiz for Unit 1. So make sure you show up. We're going to be doing it in the Twitch chat, and it'll just be a quick like prediction or multiple choice thing. But that's going to be Wednesday. And then there's a poll up in the Discord. I think it's still active with what our next section lesson topic, whatever you want to call it, will be. It's between witchcraft, historical figures, and two others that I can't remember off the top of my head. But so go check out the Discord, go do whatever else. I'm gonna get out of here for the night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody. I hit the wrong button.